Brian, no.
Okay. Welcome back to the From the Fabricator podcast. I'm your host, Max Pearlstein. Thank you so much for coming back in and listening to this one, as a lot of you are listening to all of them. So I'm grateful for that. Got a great episode today. Two really sharp guests, and just thrilled to have them with me. And I'll get to them in a second, but have to thank my sponsor of this episode, FHC. And timing wise, FHC is shipping up to Boston. If you know that song, it's a good one for the AIA conference on architecture with product launches galore. Stop by their booth at 1933 to see the latest innovations of glass entrances, door hardware, and glass railings, being among the first to see these industry breakthroughs. Steincraft security latch bolt for panic handles, creating safer, more secure entrances that resist forced entry, which is a big thing these days. Herc door self-closing door rail with integrated concealed door closer, adding functionality and ease of install to your interior glass entrances. And there is so much more. FHC, see them at booth 1933. And if you're listening to this or watching this afterwards, after AIA, find them online at fhc-usa.com. Thank you to FHC. All right, let's get to the guests. Lead it off with Brian Reisinger of Country Glass. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm rocking one of the pieces that Brian gave me way back in the day. Love their logo. I say it way too much. Brian, great guy. Neat concepts and insights from his past, what he puts into play right now. Really, really impressive. Then I finish it off with Tom Caldicott. We go overseas. Tom, has not been in the industry a long time, and he's really making an impact. He knows a lot of players. He has his finger on the pulse. And it was just neat to get some of his perspective from far away. So Brian, then Tom, and then I'll be back on the other side with some TV talk. Thank you so much for listening, and let's get going with Brian Reisinger. Okay. Kicking things off this month, I'm thrilled to have Brian Reisinger, COO, Country Glass and Mirror, also the Texas Glass Association president. We'll talk a little bit about that. You can find Country Glass's website at www.countryglassdfw.com, all one word. They also have the best logo in the business, the best swag in the business. And Brian, thank you so much for doing the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Max. It's an honor and a privilege, and thank you for all that you do for our industry. You continually bring people together and lift everybody up and just make our industry so much better.
Well, thank you, and we can end the podcast right there. Thanks for being my guest today. That I appreciate that, but it goes both ways, and we'll talk a little bit about your volunteering and the culture and everything you've brought to our industry and the energy too. So it's greatly appreciated. But let's talk a little bit about you to start. Talk about again kind of where you're born, grew up, and your path to current day at Country Glass.
All right. Yeah. So born and raised in Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
Got in the glass business. My parents actually started Country Glass in 1984.
Okay.
It was a residential shop, and they did like tract homes. And then in 1990, they got into the commercial market. And so I grew up in the business, worked summers like we were. It was a great time back then. I remember our baseball team. I played baseball, so my dad was our coach. And so pretty much he had some cheap labor every summer on like a lot of these interior finish out projects back when, we could get on the jobs.
Yep.
And so that was fun. Grew up in the business. 2001 hit. Of course, 9/11, the market kind of like cratered out, everything going on with that. And I could just see that my dad had some really good people, and the burden of that and the weight of those decisions. And so I had an opportunity to go try something else. And
Okay.
so I did. So I got out in 2002, out of the industry, owned a couple of businesses in between, owned a flooring store, had a rough go there, some good times, some bad times,
Yeah.
did some custom home building as well. Got partnered up, and then in 2014, 13, I guess actually, I went into full-time ministry. My
Oh
wife
wow.
and I were
Okay.
real involved with the church,
Great.
and they asked me to come on staff, so we did that. So I was actually in full-time ministry for 5 years,
Okay.
just about before my dad reached back out. And you know the saying, once you're in the glass business, you're always in the
Yep.
glass business. And
Yep.
so he had some health things coming up, and him and my mom had decided that they were probably going to look at, how they could exit the business. And so my wife and I, we prayed about it. And longer story for another day, but the
Yeah.
Lord really made a way there after working with some banks and stuff, and we were able to secure the financing to be able to buy my parents out. And so
Wonderful.
we got back in the end of 2017, first part of 2018, we came back into the business and took over as owners.
Nice, nice. I didn't, you said, 1984 because you just celebrated an anniversary last year.
Yeah.
So I
Yep.
do remember that. I did not know that you had that. I knew about the ministry, but I didn't know you had the chunk of time where you left the industry.
Yeah.
Now you did that because you want a different perspective. I mean, that had to be a real interesting time for you.
It was, I mean, it's something, I know like the glass business, our industry has a lot of like second and third generation, but
Right.
it's difficult to work with family.
Oh yeah.
And so me and my dad had different paths. I was young, of course, and I knew it all, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so
Yeah. Well,
I've since learned I knew nothing.
yeah, no, absolutely. I wish, there are times that I wish I knew, then what I know now. And I
Absolutely.
and I've told this story, I think, on the podcast a couple times. My brother, sister, and dad all worked in the business, and along with cousins and so on. But my mom and I was too young, and my mom wasn't in the business, and so much, Brian. The talk at the dinner table became business, who's doing what's going on. And my brother and sister and my dad, they'd all clash, and be big arguments. And my mom would look up and go, "So how's the weather?" And she would change the subject just because. And so when you say it's tough being in that family, and your dad and mom were in it, that had to be a little bit of a different perspective for sure, a little different outlet for you.
It was. And so and oddly enough, the entrepreneurial spirit, my wife's dad was an entrepreneur as well in the
Okay.
flooring business. So that was my
Okay.
opportunity. I went to go work for him. And then after a little while there, we actually opened up our own flooring company where we catered to like custom home builders. And so, yeah, I think that experience, though, I encourage a lot of people, especially with like, children in it, which mine are in it now. I
Hmm.
know we'll probably talk about
Yep.
that, but to that experience, that time away from the industry, I think really helped me when I came back in the industry
Yeah.
because I got to see some different perspectives and I got to experience some failures as
Yeah.
well. I think failure goes a long way.
Oh yeah.
And so I think that helped where we're at today.
No doubt, no doubt. And so where you're at today is Country Glass. You're more than just the best logo and best swag in the business. You're a great little company, not little either, a great company. Talk about, for those who don't know what Country Glass does and what you specialize in. Talk about the little bit of the elevator pitch. What's Country Glass all about?
Man, we are just a full service glass company. We still cater to some residential clients. We run a couple of trucks there. We're big on the service
Hmm.
aspect, no matter what. But the commercial service, so we do property managers, retrofits, those kind of things. But the bulk of our business and where we've seen the most growth is in our contract glazing. And
Okay.
so building envelope, interior finish out. I'd say we're probably stronger in the building envelope right now than we are the interior finish out. Of course, we know that market's not
Right.
as much as it used to be. But I think the thing that where we are is we're pretty specific on the type of customers we want and the
Okay.
clients. We don't go after a whole lot of new clients unless we've kind of vetted them. We're definitely more about the relationship building. And we've seen great success in that. We've got clients that we've been in business with for over 20 plus years.
Beautiful.
And so that's kind of our pitch. We want to be there with you, solution minded, and help you succeed.
Love it, love it, love it. That's good stuff. And so, and you are succeeding on your end, and you're helping your customers succeed as well. But the big question is, and you're in Texas, so a lot of people look at it as it's all wine and roses in Texas these days. So the big question is, how's it going for you this year so far? And are you guys doing okay, holding up through all the kind of the madness out there?
Yeah, so 2025 will actually be our biggest year
Okay.
to date. we were just blessed with like three pretty incredible projects that kind of like we sold all at the same time.
Super.
So this year we'll grow by over, I think it's like 54% from what we did last year.
Wonderful.
But so that's great and amazing. But now the end of 2025 and into 2026 is yet to be seen.
Right.
I'll be honest, it's just taken a lot longer to get things across the finish line to get sold out. So our backlog, we're going through it pretty good. And then we've got a couple of projects sold, but definitely don't really know what 2026 is going to be yet.
Yeah.
So we haven't rebuilt the business based on this year's what we're going to do. So we're kind of anxious to see what our business is.
No doubt, no doubt. But the nice thing is where you're at, Dallas and DFW area just continues to attract people and communities are popping up all over the place. So that's got to give you some confidence because every time a community pops up, it needs to be supported by businesses and, dry cleaners and retail places and office buildings. And so that's got to give you at least a little bit of focus going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we're in a strong market, especially when I hear about some other markets. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. I think the downside maybe is that you're also seeing some that are nervous in this, and so you've got some pricing
Yeah.
structures that we try not to we kind of know what we have to make to be able to provide the services that we do.
Yeah.
So we just kind of hold on and see who wants to do business with us from a relationship aspect
Yeah.
and where we can bring value as well. But definitely the opportunities are out there. And for us, we're real strong. Like my wife is the CEO of the company as well. And so we do a lot of like healthcare
Hmm.
and university work, which is a strong market right now. So we continue to see those opportunities come up.
Love it, love it, love it. So I got Brian Reisinger with me from Country Glass in Mir. He's also the Texas Glass Association president. You can find Country Glass though online at countryglassdfw.com. And you mentioned briefly earlier that you've got your boys with you in the business. Your wife works with you in the business. How did it that? I mean, obviously you explained already a little bit about how you and your wife got going, but how was it getting the boys in the business? How's it going so far? Are they liking it? What's it like now, kind of, doing the 2.0 of the family business with you now leading the way, you and your wife,
Yeah, it's interesting. We I'll be honest, we tried to like discourage them from getting into the business. I
right?
mean, it's a great industry and I love what we do. But I do think that exposure to other like elements and other industries can go a long way. But my oldest just graduated college with a business degree. And so we'll see. He just joined. He had been doing some remote work for us. So
Right.
that's been real nice. He does a lot of like our job costing and things that could be done remotely. And now he's in it. I think he's decided he wants to try the estimator path.
Okay.
And I think that's a good path, whether he
Yeah.
stays in the industry or not. I think it's something that he could take with him. Did
Yeah.
encourage him, hey, like if you want to get your feet wet here, but keep your eyes open for other opportunities. So and then my youngest, he started out in the field in January. So he's out on a crew. He's loving it. He's real
Super.
with his hands and everything. So he loves the instant gratification that comes from what we do and the beauty of what we do as well. I think what's been eye-opening for both of them is the technical aspect of what we do and just how hard and like how skilled
Yeah.
you really have to be to do a good job. And so they're learning a lot and seeing the value for what it is that we do as an industry.
I love it. I love it. And we need the youth, and obviously they've got the right bloodlines, so they're going to be doing they're going to be doing it right, my friend. So I love what you got going on. It's an adventure though, having the kids in the business. But I love that you got one outside in the field and one kind of like in the inside. That's a pretty cool dynamic there.
Yeah, we're excited about that. And you talked about at the dinner table when we have them all together, that is kind of what it's become though. all we talk about is glass. Or if we go somewhere, we're picking out, the glass, like, oh man, how did they do that? Or, what's that? And so it's definitely it is the bulk of the conversation. So I kind of feel for the wife and the girlfriend whenever we're all together as a
Sure.
group, because they're just kind of like, so how's the weather?
Exactly. That's exactly it. Tell them that's the trick. Yeah, that's how you change the subject. But I was lucky because I married a woman in the glass business, so she knew when I got down on my knees to like stare and see who did the glass of a certain Wendy's or at the Pittsburgh airport, and I'm trying to see the logo and the marking on the spacer. It didn't even affect her because she's been there. But I'm sure when your kids
That's
start to
awesome.
dig around and see that their wives and girlfriends might be like, "What is he doing? Why is he doing that?" So I love it. I love it. So to break it up with a fun one, I'm curious on this one. I always break up the podcast halfway through, and this has been a fun podcast, anyways. It's not like we're heading serious stuff, but fun one. Favorite all time movie and why? Very curious.
Shawshank Redemption. That would be
Okay.
mine. I probably watch it 2 or 3 times a year. It's one of those ones, if it's on and I've got the time for it, I'll sit down. Even if I don't, I'll
Yeah.
usually make time for it. It's just a great movie. I think it talks about resilience,
Yep.
the hope, staying the course. I don't know. It's just a real good movie. I was kind of thinking about it, and after being in the glass industry and going through some of the projects that we have, it's that mile where Andy Dufresne like makes it to his freedom.
Yep.
I feel like we in this industry have been through that.
We he had to swim through some stuff, and I feel like we all have to swim through that
Yes,
quite often.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I like that. I like that. That's a good one, and it's a great movie too. There's some cool message, and it's a great movie. It's one of the best of all time. So good taste by you, Sawshank. I like it. I like it. A couple more questions for Brian Reisinger, Country Glass and Mirror, also Texas Glass Association. I want to talk about the training and culture with Country Glass. When I first got to really know you, I've known you here and there over the years, but one of the things that I really got jazzed by is a few years ago you had said to me, "Hey, we're building out a kind of a training center here so we can get our folks trained." And at the time, a lot of people weren't even thinking about that. My glass class was out and there was learn glazing and some other things, but you were like kind of like the taking that lead and like we gotta like step up our training. How did you get into that, and then just the overall culture? Like I see on LinkedIn, you got biscuits and gravy guys walking the streets with the shirts. You brought your whole entire office and crew to Glass Build America, which everybody stopped and was in awe of. Where did this all come from? Is this from like years of your past in doing other things, or you and your wife putting your heads together? How did you guys build all of this and build an amazing culture?
Um, yeah, I mean, I would say really a lot of that is just like the favor of the Lord and being intentional about the cultures I shared.
Yep.
I come out of ministry, and so in ministry you have the ability to like serve people. And so
Right.
it was a it was a it was a crossroads for my wife and I whenever we stepped back into the business. It was like, hey, does this mean we're out of ministry? Does this mean we're no longer serving people? And so, but for us, I think we like Country Glass has become our marketplace ministry. So our team is like incredibly important to us, and glass is what we do and what we love, but people is who we serve. And so when you think about for us that way, it's where would we want to work?
Yeah.
And I think, we don't really see ourselves as an employer/employee relationship, but really more of I used to say family, but sometimes you can't pick your family, but
Yeah.
team you can, both
Yeah.
sides, right? The players get to pick and the coach gets to pick. And so as a team, like it's no longer everybody has a choice now
Yeah.
where they want to be. And so
Right.
we want to like have a culture that people want to enjoy coming to work as much as they possibly can. And so we try to have fun while doing some serious work as well. And then on the training aspect, I
Yeah.
believe that people want to succeed. And like what we do is difficult. What we do is technical. It's highly skilled. I don't think that our industry gets enough credit
Right.
for what we do.
No.
And you look at some of the general contractors and how they choose. What we do is very, very difficult. And so the trainings are highly important to us because again, I think people want to succeed. And so what better way than to provide those opportunities? So we fully embrace the NACC
Hmm.
certification as a company. That was like one of our first steps. And I'll be honest, in that certification, I thought, okay, well, there was a branding aspect for me. It was like, okay, I'll pay the money. We'll get this certification.
Right.
It'll look good on our website and everything. But we learned so much. Number one, it's real.
Yeah, it's not a
And
pass through. It's not pay
it's
the
not a
money.
pass through.
It's definitely not a
Uh,
pass through. Pay the money and get the badge. I mean, you got to
no.
show it. Yeah.
Yeah. You do. And
Yeah.
and and that actually to me just added the value even
Yep.
more.
Yeah.
And so to going through that, and they're there to help you.
Yeah.
I encourage people, if you're thinking about the NACC, get started on it. It seems a little overwhelming, but it really will. It like for us, it improved our company as well. Like the QMS system that was a really big piece for us that we didn't have before. It was just somebody kind of out there, but and then you get audited on it. And so it does have the value. And then seeing through that was then the AGMT. So we just started 2024. We had our first couple guys get certified on the
Super.
AGMT glazers, and then we sent four more this year. So we've got six glazers and hoping to send more through the program as well. And it's great to see these guys that have been in the industry. They pass this, and then I mean, they're proud of that as
Yeah.
well. And
Yeah.
then I think also on the training, Max, is that if we're going to attract young people into this industry, which we know that there's a huge void between all the skill and the knowledge that is leaving our industry versus the young people that are coming in. I mean, we're going to face, there are going to be some serious headwinds, more so than there already are if we don't get on this. But who wants to come if they're not going to be trained?
Right.
So we need to have some kind of program and something there to be able to show them the path to success.
No doubt. And you were ahead of that game. You were ahead of that game way before that became kind of the in thing right now. So I salute you on that. And it just dawned on me. We were talking about the kind of the ministry aspect that you kind of are treating it almost like a congregation. You guys are all kind of together fighting and understanding and learning the same things. And that's why that culture there is so fantastic. And you're right. I mean, if you love what you do, you're not really working, sort of thing. And then that kind of comes together. And then on the NACC thing, it is so funny because there's so many people that have said exactly what you've said, that they figured, oh, yeah, this is a great little certification we can add, bang our chest about, and then their eyes are open. But they all have said, we learned something new. And not one person I've talked to said, oh yeah, I already knew all that. They all learned at least something new. And I think that NACC and AGMT is just scratching the surface. I think it's just a matter of time before architects and GCs demand having NACC certification for the companies and AGMT glazers on the job. I don't know if you're seeing anything yet, but I think it's just a matter of time.
I think so. I've heard in other states it's stronger, but even for Texas, we are seeing it in some specs,
Yeah.
like the AGMT glazers. I don't know. I think I've seen in one spec the NACC. Now, is it being enforced yet?
No.
No, but I think, like you say, it's just a matter of time. And I think also there is some instability in our industry
Yeah.
as a whole with general contractors and architects, and so to me, those are differentiators that help, provide some stability for
Yeah.
them. And again, man, I really like, I can't say enough about the group over there at NACC and the
Yeah.
AGMT. Those guys over there, they want to see you succeed. And so, like, we came in and we were just very open, like, hey, we've never done a quality management. Like we don't know it. I mean, and they help you put the foundational blocks together. But yet it's still your system. You still decide, and they'll just say, hey, here's kind of a framework. And then they work with you and kind of with you every step of the way. So it's been a
Yeah.
great experience for us. And I'm hopeful that more will get that certification as well, then that more will embrace the AGMT. I think there's strength in numbers with that.
Yeah, needs to happen. Needs to happen. And in Texas, I think AGMT's next level of certifications coming to Houston
Yeah.
in the fall down at Precision Glass. And I was at a facility I was at a few weeks or maybe a month ago, and it's super impressive. So the Glazers will get to see something new and different, and also get their certification. So it's good stuff on AGMT and NACC. And I love Jeff Dalaba,
Yeah.
brilliant guy, brilliant guy.
Yeah.
He's a rocket scientist. I mean, we needed a
Really.
rocket science. Yeah, we needed a rocket scientist to teach us this. That's what we needed. So I love it. So I got Brian Reisinger with me, Country Glass and Mirror. See them at countryglassdfw.com. Brian is also this year's president at the Texas Glass Association. The best association in our industry. California is gaining; they're getting better, but they learn from you guys.
Yeah.
And there's some other good ones. Colorado's good, and Minnesota's coming back strong. But Texas is the blueprint. TGA is fantastic. First off, how's the year going with you as president? You're coming off a great event in San Antonio. So far, so good. How's the year going for you?
Yeah, the year's going really good. Of course, man, we have like an amazing board.
Yes.
Makes it super easy for me, honestly, as or anybody who's the president. But and there's big shoes to fill. I mean, there's so many people that are involved in the TGA. And so, we get to be stand on the shoulders of giants
Yeah.
that have gone before us and make this association what it is. I think the involvement is picking up as well more and more. Of course, Texpo was a fantastic event. Appreciate like Deb Levy and that
Mm-hmm.
group. They put on a great event. And
They do.
so we saw great success there. Of course, always great to catch up with you.
Thank you. Same, same, same.
Anytime Max is there, it levels up the event. So
No, I try, but it's great. It's great to be there. But yeah, and I love the fact that your luncheons that you have, and I know that's North Texas Glass Association sometimes and Houston Area Glass Association, but they're all still with under the TGA brand. I love what they do. Even if 20 people come, 80 people come, whatever it is, the education's fantastic, the insight's fantastic, and you guys stick with it. And that's where I think a lot of groups go sideways. If they don't see a lot of interest, they let things kind of fade. And you guys, you Texas comes out and supports, and I think it's because you guys stay the course. You never give up.
oh man, our those two chapters are phenomenal.
Yeah.
They're led by phenomenal people. They've got so much like participation as well. And so it's good to see them and they really carry the torch. And again, it goes back to that networking and just being around others. I'll say one other thing that's happening with the TGA this
Yeah.
year when we talk about training. Really appreciate like Kyle Lamb and the board as well. But we're on the cusp of being able to say that we have a fully sanctioned apprenticeship program.
Yes. Yes. I've heard
So
that.
it's
Yes.
it's with the state now. It's based off of a lot of help from the NGA
Hmm.
as well, and so we're excited about that and believing that that will help attract the young people also.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I knew that you guys had that going on. I'm glad it's close to finally getting
Yeah.
over the finish line because I do think it'll make a difference. And from the NGA standpoint, we're hearing from a lot of other states that have seen the apprenticeship pop into some of these different areas, Utah and Washington State. Now you guys, and I think there's going to be a lot more states to follow. And I think it's a good thing again for our industry. We gotta attract that youth. Hopefully your son who's in the field can be the leader of attracting more people his age to get behind us and get in this world. He'll tell them how great it is.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. One more question for Brian Reisinger because he's a busy man. Country Glass and Mirror, also at the Texas Glass Association. He's the president this year. See them online at countryglassdfw.com. So you mentioned earlier, okay, you guys are good for 2025. You're working through it. 2026 looks a little, cloudy at this point. How are you feeling though overall? With just the volatility, the lack of visibility, probably even some of the negative feelings that are out there is, what's interesting about Texpo is it does attract a lot of people from out of state. And so you do probably pick up some different, sort of attitudes and things. How are you feeling though about the economy into 2026 and so on? Good, bad, otherwise, or like everybody else, just wondering what day it is because it changes every day.
Probably, probably the latter. I mean, I think there's reason to be like optimistic and to have hope. There again, we are in a strong market. I think there is definitely uncertainty, and just like with the tariffs, it's so hard to navigate. There was an initial response, and then 3 days later, it's not existent,
Right.
and then like 3 days from that, now it's
Back.
ballooned back into.
Yeah.
So I think through that, and I think we also learned as an industry the resilience of coming through like the pandemic
Yeah.
as well. So while we're seeing a lot of things, nothing is like that time, as far as that volatile. But economically, if rates will do something, I think there's so many projects on hold. And so I think, people are wanting to build, and there's an opportunity there, but whether or not it will break through, I'm not sure. I do think that regardless of the economic, I would say that like we as an industry, and especially for us as a company, we're focused on being able to show what our value
Right.
is.
Right. Have to.
I think, yeah, I think so. I mean, because otherwise you're in the race for like a race to the bottom price
Exactly.
wise.
Yep.
And I haven't seen that successful
It doesn't.
in this industry or in other industries as well. I mean, it's a very temporary fix that creates long-term headaches, and becomes almost insurmountable, because once you start that, you almost have to continue. So I think you have to be able to show where your value is to the GCs and to the architects and to the end users as well. And a lot of times that goes beyond our product.
Yeah.
That is, what is our communication going to be? How are we part of the solution,
Yeah.
and how do we communicate? And so I think, yeah, economic wise, because if this thing does bust loose, we have a lot of bid opportunities. So we have so much out there that if it were all to come, we would have to pick what we were going to take. And I'm sure others are in that same
Vote.
same seat.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, what are we gonna do if it does? But yeah, a lot of uncertainty. I mean, that was a long answer
No,
for
good answer.
for an easy question, but
Good answer. And I think you're right. There's a lot of projects on hold waiting to see, if and when the rates will drop. They're gonna drop eventually. They have to, and obviously there's a lot of pressure on the Fed to drop them, but the Fed's trying to wait and see, kind of where inflation lands and all the tariff craziness. So, but it's gonna have to happen. And then when it does, like you said, it depends on how it kind of comes out. If it comes out all at once, yeah, it's gonna be kind of an adventure, but hopefully it comes out in a good way where things can take their place and smooth out overall and not be just a an explosion of work all of a sudden where it leaves everybody kind of searching for answers and searching for people.
well, actually, you bring that up because that's absolutely right. Because if it were to all break loose, I didn't even, ponder that aspect of it till you said it. But then all of a sudden, supply chain issues.
Oh
There's
yeah.
not going to be enough material. People trying to ramp up. So yeah, yeah, we need it to be a measured, a
Yeah.
measured piece.
So hopefully there's some leading adopters that take it and then kind of go from there. But it bears watching, and you're doing a fabulous job with TGA and you and the like you said the board. Such great people. I wanted to hit on that when we were on the Texas Class Association. I love that board that you have, and then the boards of the chapters. Such a powerhouse of people. I mean, it's just it's something to say. It really is, and you all should be quite proud of what you do for this industry for sure.
Yeah, I mean that group is phenomenal. It
Yeah.
really is. Like I learned so much being around them, and I would encourage, if people aren't involved in the TGA, to get involved,
Yeah.
because it's that camaraderie, that network. Again, what we do is difficult, and we face headwinds and face challenges, but having someone that you can like that is going through something similar, and you can lean on, or ask a question, or just try to get support, and you're not in it alone. And
Yep.
I think us as an industry, if we will really adopt the better to together,
Yeah.
and there's enough work for everybody. So I
Yeah.
think if we will go and support and lift each other up, I think it will just make the industry stronger. It'll make us funner,
Yeah.
and more successful as well.
Well said, my friend. I appreciate your time. I've had Brian Reisinger of Country Glass and Mirror with me. He's also the president of Texas Glass Association. See what he's doing at Country Glass online at countryglassdfw.com. Brian, my friend, thank you so much for doing the podcast, and thank you for everything you're doing out there. And keep it going, keep it rolling. And I can't wait to check in with you down the line and see how it's all continuing to go straight up. It's like a rocket ship. I love it.
And thank you so much, Max. Again, appreciate you. It's an honor to be a guest on your podcast. And if I don't see you before, I know I'll see you in Florida.
Yes, see you at Glassfield. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll
Absolutely.
see you in Florida, and we'll see if any companies in Orlando will follow your lead by bringing all their folks. You set the bar. In the custom T-shirt too. You set the bar. So we'll see if anybody can come through. If not, we will make sure they're aware of it. Nobody has touched custom Country Glass yet in supporting Glassfield. So thank you so much for that.
Appreciate the kind words.
You bet. Thank you so.
Hey Glazers and Fabricators, FHC, the frameless hardware company, is here to support your business. In addition to offering a complete selection of glazing tools and supplies to get the job done right, we design, engineer, and manufacture a comprehensive offering of frameless shower door systems, heavy glass doors, aluminum entrances and storefronts, architectural railings, transaction and display hardware. Privately owned and American-made, FHC prioritizes you, the customer. You now have a choice. Visit fhc-usa.com.
Okay. Next up on the From the Fabricator podcast, I am thrilled to be joined by Tom Caldicott, the founder of Unity Search, also the Facade Focused newsletter and podcast, which I've been honored to be on. You can follow him on LinkedIn under Tom Caldicott, or check out their website at Unity Search Ltd. Limited, unitysearchltd.com. Did I do that right, Tom? I get your website correct there?
Perfect. That
Wonderful.
was it. That was perfect. Yeah, nailed it.
Tom, thanks so much for doing the podcast. I know you're a busy man, so thank you so much for cramming me in your schedule.
Absolutely. This is a pleasure. I know this is the return leg for us.
Yes.
We had a great first conversation, and I've been looking forward to doing this on the return leg. So thanks a lot for having me. I'm honored.
My pleasure, and it was great to be on yours, and I learned a lot, from myself, and learned a little bit about you. But now, the tables are turned. And the one thing I
Yep.
really never got into it with you as we kind of got to know each other is your past. Where you're born, grew up, went to school. How'd you make it from then to today? Then we'll talk about Unity Search and so on. But give me a little bit of your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, my accent, I'm from the UK.
Yep.
I grew up in the smallest county in the UK called Rutland. So, for people that aren't familiar with the UK, if you take London
Uh-huh.
and take a train an hour north,
Okay.
that's where it's in the middle of nowhere, super rural. So, I grew up. Obviously, when you're in a rural small county, you get a lot of fields. So, I
Yes.
grew up playing golf.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
golf is my game. Golf, football. So I grew up playing tons of sports. So my background is filled with, certainly from a recreational level, loads of sports. And yeah, stayed in the UK, grew up, sort of went to, we call it primary school, which would be junior school, and then high school locally. And then, played a lot of sports through high school. And
Hmm.
then, strangely enough, I did what's called over here is my A levels. So it's sort of when you get to like 16, 17, that takes you through to 18, just before you go to college or university.
Hmm.
I did my education there, and then it sounds more glamorous than it was, but I turned professional as a golfer.
Oh,
But
wow.
it was more for the teaching element. My golf game itself, I played on some really like low key regional tours, very local. But I did teaching, so I would teach golf as a profession. I would play here and there. Quickly found out that that big dream that I had as a kid to be a professional sports person, whether it was soccer, football, or golf. Was a lot more competitive than I had thought. And when you're playing these local tours and you think you're good and you come up against some of these guys who are just out of this world, it sort of put a lot into perspective for me. So, I did that for 2 or 3 years. I kind of fell out of love with the game a little bit. It very much felt like work rather than a hobby in the end.
Hmm.
And then I got into recruitment and started started doing recruitment out in Southeast Asia, the
Oh,
Far
wow.
East, the Middle East, and it was all in the construction industry.
Okay.
And no clients, nothing, just start from scratch. And yeah, started recruiting over way out in the Far East, and sort of made my way slowly back through the Middle East to Europe, then eventually North America, and kind of found the glass glazing metal industry kind of by accident.
Okay.
Did a quite a bit of work in Asia for a big regional player, and then um, soon sort of twigged that construction is this huge industry with so many different disciplines and types of business, and different stakeholders on projects, that I really enjoyed, talking to the glass and glazing people. And I thought, let's kind of go like an inch wide and a mile deep
Right.
and figure out, if I can be a specialist in one area, then I'd be far more valuable to my clients on the back end. So,
Sure.
not by design, purely by chance, and then ended up recruiting in the US. And gosh, here we are today, a decade later.
I love it. Well, we'll dive into that more. I got to back up though. A couple questions. The town you
Yeah.
grew up in, how many people? What was the population of that town?
Gosh, do you know what? I grew up in a village, so I wouldn't
Okay.
even,
So it's a village.
God.
So you're talking
Oh
like
yeah,
one road sort of thing.
one road,
Okay.
few houses either side, and then like a cluster at the end. That's
Gotcha.
it. There was two towns within 8 miles.
Okay.
Very, yeah, like in the middle of nowhere, really rural.
Okay, next, you're not sandbagging me about your golf. I'm not going to turn on the Open in July and see you out there, in a group
You,
with Rory,
you,
with
you
Rory and
might,
Phil Mickelson or something like that.
you
So,
might, but I'll just be the other side of the ropes. That'll be the
okay,
thing. You might see
okay.
me on the camera. Yeah.
If
I'll be
I
the
hear them
crowd.
say Caldicott 4 under after five, I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, I had him on my podcast.
Yeah,
So,
it's been a long time since I was 4 under par, but yeah, no, the golf took a back seat. It has been for a while, so yeah, no danger of that yet, Max.
love it, love it. And so let's talk about Unity Search. That's your company.
Sure.
You can find
Yep.
them online. I've got Tom Caldicott with me. He's the founder of Unity Search. You can find them online at Unity Search Limited or LTD, unitysearchltd.com. How did
That's
this all
right.
start? I mean, you explained briefly about, okay, you found the glass and glazing industry, you got into our niche. Like I say to a lot of people, once you get in the glass industry, you never leave. So you as
Yeah.
a recruiter, same thing. We've got you. We got a hook on you. How did Unity
Yeah.
Search start? How did you get that rolling?
For me, it's glass and glazing, and even the metal side of the industry has just become a huge passion for me over the years. And I've got, I think for me, initially it was about being valuable to the client base. So trying to be super niche and specialist is how I got in. I didn't have this, oh my gosh, I need to jump into this glass and glazing industry because of what it is. I kind of, stumbled upon it. And once I found myself in it, I just really enjoyed one, working with subcontractors, and nothing against GCs or architects or consulting engineers. I just really, really enjoyed working with the subcontractors, whether that be a glazing contractor, cladding contractor, whichever it is. I kind of found myself comfortable with that portion of the industry, generally because some of them are, family owned businesses, and
Hmm.
you get to really build quite a deep relationship with them because they have real skin in the game, and it's maybe second, third generation.
Yep.
But also, they never end up being too. Obviously, you've got some absolute behemoths out there in terms of, size of business, but I like the fact that they're generally between 20 to 100 employees,
Hmm.
roughly. And everything that you do with them it feels like you've made an impact within the business, because one really good hire or
Hmm.
two really good hires can significantly impact the business. Whereas with a GC, you might get more business coming in and, good business flow, but, you know, some of these GCs are enormous. And
Yeah.
okay, you help the person, which is great that you get into a role, but that feeling just wasn't really the same for me. So yeah, Unity Search was bound from really building deep relationships and just enjoying the people that I work with, and really trying to focus on for me, quality of person that I work with, people that do business the right way, and also quality of the business as well. You know, what
Yeah,
they stand for, the story, that's really important to me. So when I started Unity Search, I put a big focus on that. And yeah, it's been nearly 2 years now
okay,
since I set
great,
up the business. So
great.
yeah, it's been a lot of work, and a lot of late nights. Haven't got everything right. You know, I've far from perfect, and everything is, it's a continuous evolution of the business. You know, it never stops. The
Right.
things that I'm trying to improve, but the right intentions are there. So I'm grinding away, and we're still going strong today.
Yeah, great, great. And if you ever stop, that's the problem. You always have to keep grinding, and I love that. And the other thing that I really dig about you is that you got it pretty quickly that this is a relationship-based industry. You have to, people really, make a lot of decisions emotionally, and that's sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. But the fact that they do that, you have to, have a good, solid relationship and a foundation. And I think you've picked it up that you're not transactional. You're about, you really care. And I've liked that about you, that you're not just looking to fill any hole with any sort of body. You take everything very seriously. And that's a big appreciation I have for you and what you do. So kudos and keep
No,
going with
that's
it.
Yeah, that's very kind. And, I'm certainly not, as I said before, I'm certainly not sitting here saying that I've got everything right. And, I've been able to do everything that I've wanted to do, even with the best intentions. At the end of the day, results speak for themselves. And getting the right people in the right seats with the right, teams is ultimately, that's the aim of the game. But I think trying to understand how people want to run their business, and also for me as well, I can't profess at all to be a technically minded person in this industry. Far from it. I'm sort of like the people person, if you
Hmm.
like. I can kind of connect the dots
Right.
most of the time. Um, but I think trying to look past just the hiring and the recruiting piece as well, I think is important for me, and how um, businesses are evolving with such changes in landscape, tariffs being one thing, for
Yep.
example, and trying to, piece together, right, this is the way that the cards have fallen. How do we pivot? What are businesses trying to do? Where are we trying to go? What does that look like? Whether that's trying to suggest different hires for people to make. So, certain people thinking they need this when the bottleneck in their business may be over here, and we sort of do a bit of a deep dive as to what's stopping them from getting to the next level. To even just, looking at their brand building on LinkedIn. I've got a
Yeah.
huge passion for the power of LinkedIn, and people being able to share their story, which I think is so powerful on the LinkedIn platform. So trying to look a little bit past recruitment and trying to just improve people's businesses through information that I can gather in the industry.
That's huge. That's huge. I've got Tom Caldicott with me, founder of Unity Search. Find them online at Unity Search Ltd, all one word with the LTD at the end.com. And he's also the founder and the man behind the Facade Focus newsletter and podcast. Like I said earlier, I was honored to be on one of the podcasts. The lineup of guests you've had, you told me going into this that you felt like you had a really, really powerful lineup. And my friend, you weren't
Yeah.
sandbagging me there. I mean, it's pretty darn impressive. And so really, so the newsletter comes out, I believe, what, weekly, right?
Yeah, Mondays. Yeah, we did the first. It's been going since around November
Okay.
weekly. Just releasing the next episode today. It turns out that my video and audio editing skills have a lot to be desired. So I've had an issue with one of the episodes of the last 2 weeks, but I'm there now. So that goes out today. That's episode 7
Okay.
with Ilya Alyoshkin.
Yep.
Wonderful guy, great business. So yeah, it's a bit of um, I would say a passion project. I think it's also one of those things that I feel quite privileged that I get to talk to all these amazing people
Yeah.
all day long, every day. And it's kind of like trying to understand. And sometimes I think, I speak to, founders of these contracting businesses, and, amazing glass and glazing people. And in my head, when I'm having these amazing conversations, I'm just like, this should be on a podcast. People need to hear this. Like,
Yeah.
people could learn so much from what this person is saying right now. So I kind of floated it out, and yeah, was overwhelmed with the take up on it, to be honest.
It is an amazing medium, and so the newsletter itself, you've got it coming out every Monday. How does someone get on your subscription list? What's the best way?
Yeah, so LinkedIn. Go on my LinkedIn. Under newsletters, you'll see Facade Focus. You can go back and read through, pick the ones that you want to read through, and then you'll get that every Monday. I think you get an email, and you'll
Yep.
also get a notification on LinkedIn. And typically now they're based around the podcast. So whatever the podcast, Facade Focus podcast is, that topic will sort of dig into that subject.
Nice, nice. And so Tom, Tom, Caldicott, Caldicott. That's what you
That's
look
right.
up on LinkedIn and find him and get subscribed to the Facade Focus newsletter, and that leads you obviously to the podcast. And Ilya, I'm looking forward to hearing that. I've never met him in person, but I know he's worked with a good friend of mine, Tim Finley, and
Yeah.
I've seen his name all around. So I look forward to taking that one in for sure, for sure. So.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I would recommend anyone that is going to listen to the Ilya one, go to his LinkedIn and look at the way that he creates content.
Yeah.
Because, again, on the back of that, I think he does a phenomenal job of educating. Creating content is one thing, but making it valuable and educational is another. And there is a bit of an art to it. And he does a great job of that. It's engaging. There's short form, long form, written. And yeah, I'd advise anyone that's going to listen to that, go and look at his LinkedIn.
Yeah, he's impressive. We have you both of us know there's people on LinkedIn that are out there to just pound their own chest, build their own
Yeah.
ego, and he's not one of them. He is providing some excellent context. So kudos to you. All right, you got to break it up with a fun question.
Sure.
On your pod, you had asked me if I had a mulligan in life, and a mulligan for those of you who aren't golfers are you get another try at it. So if you have a
Yeah.
bad swing and the ball goes into the water or the woods, you get a whole new fresh shot at it. So for you, my friend, a mulligan in your life, what would that be if you could take a mulligan on something?
Wow. I should have thought through asking that question. I knew it would come back to bite me at
It
some
was a
point.
bear on me
Yeah,
too, because I will tell
it
you,
is.
just so you know, I had like a bunch of answers, and I'm like, I don't know if no, nah, and I went round and round. So it's a tough one. It's
Yeah,
a tough one.
it is. I think, and I'm going to avoid saying that, you know, I don't have any regrets or,
Yeah,
wouldn't, redo anything because I think there's a bunch of things that I'd redo. I think one for me would be there's probably a few things, from a business and a personal perspective where again, this might be too generic, so I might have to sort of give you a bit more context as a follow-up, but sometimes I sort of get into the real weeds of things
hmm
and I'll look at a problem and see it as a problem and not sort of be able to zoom out and have this helicopter view and give it perspective. I kind of get quite insular with dealing with problems. And I think there's probably three or four different occasions where I've gone in, tried to solve this problem. But if I'd have just taken a step back,
yeah,
zoomed out, looked at the whole perspective, that wasn't the problem at all. It had started two or three steps sort of before that. So it's a generic answer and it's not specific in terms of
well,
a
it's legit
situational
though.
scenario.
Yeah,
But it's yeah, I think I sometimes get the blinkers on. I just, you zoom out far enough, you can't even see the world. Like
yeah.
problems aren't really problems. And I just need to sort of get myself out sometimes.
I like it. I like it. That works for me, my friend. A couple more questions for
Good.
you. Curious on this one. You mentioned a little bit earlier about the tariffs, and so I got to ask you, coming from your side of things, and your clients, because I know your clients are caught up in this. What's your take on it? How's it going? What is the feedback you're getting? Give me the rundown from your side of the world.
Yeah, I think, as cliche as it sounds, it is a moving target. And I've had a couple of clients that have gone all in, appointing tons of lawyers and, really trying to figure out like, okay, if this is going to stick around and, these sort of barriers have been put in place, like
Yeah.
let's play some theory. So I've had one end of the spectrum really over prepare and know every single scenario that if this does not budge, where do we stand?
Right.
How do we stand with our clients? How do we stand with material, with everything? And then I've had other clients that are completely opposite end of the spectrum where they've kind of taken the approach of we can't control it. We're not going to react immediately.
Okay.
We're going to sit back and we're going to kind of see how this all pans out. And there's so many moving parts. And I think the more that you try and control something that you ultimately you can't control it, I think you've got to be aware of it and prepared to change your mind. I think having a real rigid stance on things like this is super dangerous. And I think, it's better to be right in the end than call it
Yeah.
on the front end and then stick with it. Don't have a stubborn mind. And I think that, there's a lot of people approaching it a lot of different ways, but I think just be ready to be able to change your mind and be okay with that.
Because it's such a fluid situation. You have to be fluid. You have to be, flexible. And especially a lot of the folks that you deal with, a lot of the folks I know are dealing with metal, and the aluminum factor is always been a little nutty because of the volatility of aluminum as it is. But now, you got to figure out the actual, where it's coming from, how much, the tariffs, and I mean, that's a whole nother Megillah there. I mean, that's a tough one.
It's interesting. I had a couple of, I had one client that flew over to Asia and they'd sort of figured out where the tariffs were coming from and what was likely to happen, what wasn't likely to happen. Found a new supply chain. Went to that country, flew out and nailed down exclusivity with that particular partner, which
Smart.
is huge because, it makes no sense to deal with this country short term. You need to look at other suppliers, and they reacted immediately. They went out, they saw it for what it was, locked down exclusivity, and came back. And now they have a solution. So I think it'll be interesting to see how it pans out for the rest of the year.
It's gonna be very interesting, and it changes daily. So it's never a dull moment, my friend. Never a dull moment. I got Tom Caldicott with me, founder of Unity Search. He's got the Facade Focus newsletter and podcast. You can do that by finding him on LinkedIn, or you can check out his website at Unity Search Ltd, all one word there, .com. A couple more questions for you before we wrap up. The glass industry, I know, frustrates people. And rumor has it, and those who are watching this on YouTube, when you got into the glass industry, you had a big afro. And then, of course, the glass industry made you lose all your hair. I don't know if that's true or not. Yeah, exactly. What can we do? What has you've now been in and around the glass industry for 10 years? You've had more than 2 years at Unity Search. What are the things that we should be doing to make your job easier, better, us as better as an industry? Give me some pluses here that we need to get focused on.
Share content, educate, learn, listen, be okay with, I think being okay with changing your mind. And some people would describe that as being open-minded to doing things in a slightly different way. I think we spoke about it very briefly on my podcast where we were looking at, it can't just be that we always do things the way they've always been done just because.
Yep.
I think we're in a bit of a strange period where I think it's boomers. There's a big percentage of boomers are going to retire by 2030.
Yeah.
And even on the labor side of it. So we've got to figure out a way to, one, attract more people into the industry, educate them pretty quickly, and make them stick around. So we've got to share content, share the story, the mission. I wish more people would get on LinkedIn and share and, create even very basic content for people to learn from, even on the back end, even if it's just for, you're not banging your own job, but maybe it's even for a selfish reason of trying to make it easier to hire people, because hiring people in this industry is not easy, but people buy into people and people trust executives, leadership teams that aren't out there banging the drum for themselves, but
Yeah.
they're educating, they're in the community, and that they want to see that. Certainly the younger generation that are coming
Yeah.
through. So I think it's all about education, learning, trying to figure out new ways. And when I say that, not trying to turn your company into a tech company overnight, but just look at one process in your business. How could we improve that with any form of automation, or maybe even just systemize something so small that we can sort of get out of the weeds and, be better at everything.
Right.
So yeah, I think education, learning, and open-mindedness.
I like it. The unselfishness is huge in our industry, and people who share, I really believe that they get it back tenfold,
Yeah.
because they're doing the right thing for the industry. So good point by you. All right, last one. I always ask every guest, and for you, it's going to be interesting because you have a whole different perspective. The
Sure.
economy, the forecast. How are you feeling with the rest of 2025? I know you got a ton of clients that have probably given you some insight on how they're feeling.
Yeah.
What's the feel out there with the forecast in our crazy times right now?
Do you know what? I think I don't see any particular trend. So like this particular area of the business, red states versus blue states being busy, not busy, tight. I think what the only trend I can see is I'm seeing more and more businesses transition into the service industry,
Hmm.
special projects. So some of the mid-size and larger glazes, I'm seeing a coming into that specialist service and even retrofit, that type of market, adding it in on as another revenue stream. I'm seeing quite popular. I've seen a couple of really good businesses have diversified their portfolio in, maybe they've bought a cladding contractor to add on to their glass business. Maybe they've looked at adding, drywall, or maybe a roofing contractor has bought, a different type of ancillary business. So I'm seeing diversification. I'm still seeing lots of people that are busy. I'm seeing lots of people are laying off people. And I'm not buying into the adage that the people that are laying off just the worst people. I think there's lots of moving parts. There's tariffs, different areas of the country. There's, interest rates are up,
Yeah.
Private money's sort of still a little bit stagnant. So yeah, not massive trends, but there is still work to go at out there. And I think diversification is probably the only trend I'm seeing.
That's a big one. That's a big one. It is going to be an interesting rest of the year and into next year, just because I think conventional wisdom's been thrown out the window, of what to expect. So that I'm sure that makes it tough on you and your clients as they're trying to plan. I mean, it's just like
Yeah,
you got nothing to work off of.
that's the thing, and I think again, similar to what we said before, is that I had a call with a client just last week, and I think they'd gone through design assist phase, and suddenly finance been pulled from the project, immediately. So their full workload
Yeah,
gone,
gone.
just overnight gone. No reasons, generic reasons from the GC, just coming back with insert any excuse here,
Sure,
like
sure.
whatever it is. So I think you've just got to be, at the moment, you've got to be fluid. It's tough to plan, but you've just got to dig in there. Even in my industry, what we do in hiring people, there's or help hiring people. As the years go on, I've certainly found that we've got to deliver more for less.
Hmm.
And that may be sort of creeping into well, it definitely is creeping into the glazing industry. So I think just being aware that it's not just happening to you, and to not feel like, you're just in this sort of big ocean on your own. Like everyone's feeling it. Even the people that are busy are feeling it, because they get to a point where they weren't expecting to bring all this work on, but then they do, and then it's a case of like, well, now we need to hire some great people, and even that's tough.
Yeah.
So yeah, everyone's feeling it. Just hang in there and keep grinding away.
That's it. That's it. I love it. This has been great. I've had Tom Caldicott with me. He's the founder of Unity Search, facade focused newsletter and podcast. You can find that at LinkedIn. Just look up his name, Tom Caldicott, Caldicott, and then his website is unitysearchltd.com. And Tom, thank you so much for doing the podcast. I don't know if I did you justice the way you did me justice, but this was a heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah, I loved it. And look, honored to be on your podcast, and thank you for coming on mine. I think the work that you're doing as well, educating the industry, moving the needle and trying to open people's minds is needed and very much valued. So keep doing what you're doing. And yeah, I'm sure we'll have a round three at some point.
I look forward to that. I look forward to meeting you in person one of these days. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the nice words, and continued success for you and everybody with you out there.
You too. Thanks, Max.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much to Brian Reisinger and Tom Caldicott. Great insights from both of those gentlemen. Good people, too. I really appreciate them coming on. Before we wrap up, I've got to thank FHC for their support of this podcast. They'll be in Boston if you're listening to this before June 4th. They'll be in Boston for the AIA conference. Check them out at booth 1933. They've got a lot of new things there. You can't miss it. 1933 at AIA. And if you are not going to AIA, or you're listening to this or watching this afterwards, fhc-usa.com. Good folks, and please check them out, and thank you to them. All right, before I go, I may have mentioned last podcast about the show on Apple, Your Friends and Neighbors. The finale is out today, and I have not watched it, but the first 7 or 8 episodes are fantastic. John Hamm in that one, so if you haven't watched that, it's on Apple. Your Friends and Neighbors, really neat concept. I've enjoyed it. And so I also finally got around to finishing White Lotus, and as a couple friends of mine that I went to lunch with, I said, don't spoil it for me. And they said, well, it's going to be chaotic. And that was the right word, chaotic. Interesting series. Always makes me shake my head. White Lotus on HBO. So those are the TV thoughts. We'll be back next month. Again, the guests are starting to really come together, and that's all because the support that everybody gives me and watches and listens to this, it's just growing and growing and growing, and I am completely grateful. So thank you to everybody there. Have a good month ahead, and we will see you soon.
Oh, the music is stopped.